This is Up for a Chat with your hosts, Cindy O'Meara and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat, talking about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Cindy O'Meara.
And I'm Kim Morrison. Oh, what a delight this week. We have a beautiful soul all the way from the US of A, the amazing Karen Bartholomew. Now, this beautiful soul is the founder of the Pause Method, something Cindy and I are very excited to talk about today. But she's also a wonderful coach that empowers women and leaders to embrace intentional reflection. Along with that, they gain clarity and take decisive action. And I think what we'll discover today is how and what she does to create that magic. And having just come off the back of a retreat, we've heard how many lives she's changing. Welcome to Up for a Chat, beautiful Karen.
Oh, thank you, beautiful ladies. I'm so excited and honored to be here with you.
Well, we're a bit excited. Before we get into what the power of pause is, which is an interesting word in itself, because most people like to fill those pauses or those moments of silence. So let's go on a little journey. Tell us, the listener, where are you from? What did you do? And how did you get into the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, so I am originally from San Francisco, California. And I've actually, ironically, I've been in the mortgage business for 20 years. But I started coaching for different organizations back in 2010. And so what I found was I went through a whole transformation myself. I just got really sick of myself and the mundane life that I was in. And I never had enough time to actually, I just saw you pause. So I wasn't sure if I needed to pause. And what I found out is that I really just got sick of my mundane life and I didn't have any time. I was a single mom of 3 very small children, a newborn, a 4-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And I was just running from 6 a.m. until I put them to bed. And there was no time for me to even get a cup of tea or go for a walk or exercise or do any of that stuff. I was just exhausted all the time. And so I'm like, something's got to change. I've got to figure out how I play this game called life and how I can start designing something that I want to design for the next chapter. So I'm a better mom, a better friend, a better, daughter, and all those good things. So somebody introduced me to a class of awareness and I took it and I just kind of went off. I took the awareness class for 3 days, tried to see how I played life. I took it on mentally and physically. And then I did leadership classes. And then I actually became a coach. And then I became the coach of coaches. And the transformation that people do in a 90-day period is like amazing. I experienced it and then I wanted to help other people do it as well. And so I also was a coach for a sales organization and business sales. But what I found was when I started coaching people individually, the two worlds don't come together. And I know that if we can bring the business side together with some personal development, right, where people can truly transform and as leaders really take a moment for themselves to really find out who their true essence is, right? We're going to live more fulfilled, joyful lives. What I found out in my world is my story was from a small child that I did not feel loved and held and heard and seen. And so overall, I didn't feel like I mattered some of the time. Right. And so when my mom was going to have another child at 12 years old, basically, I felt there wasn't enough love already just because of circumstances. Like, how am I going to be loved now? Right. So I took those stories and I took them into my adult life. And of course, they transformed into other things with relationships and whatnot. And so that's when I was just over time doing the same things, picking the same men, doing the same thing over and over again. I was just sick of it. And so I just kind of took myself on this big, beautiful journey. And I got addicted and I wanted to help other people do the same. And that's pretty much how my story started. And then through that, I realized what I was doing. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a name to this and I got to figure it out. And so that's how I ended up with the pause method, because that's what I was really doing, not knowing what I was doing. And then, of course, I got into a little bit more work of helping women go back and really get freedom from the constraints of their past, which actually allowed them then to really live their fulfilled lives.
All right. So
that was a lot. I'm so sorry.
No, I thought it was brilliant. So I'm going to be your client.
Good.
And I'm overwhelmed. I've got so much happening. I don't have children, but I have grandchildren. I have businesses. And I come to you. What's your first step with me?
Well, I would first say to you, okay, so tell me a couple little things that's going on. Like well, that's a lot going on in your life, right? So like, what's the constant message that you keep saying to yourself, like with all this going on? I'm like, that's a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm kind of exhausted just hearing it right now, right?
Well, as soon as I heard the pause method, I went, I need to pause. That's when I saw that, I went, I need some pause in my life. And the place I have pause in my life is with my grandchildren and with my farm.
Yes.
And I'd bring them up here. We collect eggs. We go see the cows. We pick raspberries. We pick fruit. It's just a beautiful time. And that's my Fridays is when I do that. But I find the rest of the time, and I'm not just saying it about me. This is a whole group of women that I know.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you an example. And that's why I've gone, right, I've come to you as a client. In actual fact, Kim and I and quite a few of our girlfriends are going to have an abundance day tomorrow, where we're going to spend the day together and do a vision on what is it that we want moving forward, because we're all grandmoms or children have left home. We all run our own businesses. Every single one of us have our own business. And you just keep hearing about, this is happening amongst our kids, and I'm not talking to this child, or business is just not doing as well as it could go, or business is doing really well, but my life is. So I'm just it's not necessarily about me. This is about what's happening in the world. And the fact that we have 10 incredible friends that I think are pretty amazing and are able to get a lot done in their lives, and we're all happy. I'm trying to figure out what is happening in the world for us to be feeling this as well as I'm sure a lot of other people are feeling it. What do you think is happening?
Well, I think there's a lot of fear of the unknown, right? Okay, so, and when we talk about fear, it's like, where does fear come from, right? Well, fear is from our past, right? Because I mean, we really don't know what's going to happen an hour from now. And if you really don't know what's going to happen an hour from now, then what is there to fear? Okay, because fear, like we bring it forward, we're like, oh, there's a situation, and it's like, oh my gosh, we take all of our history and bring it forward, the subconscious beliefs that we have, right, that we're not aware of, right? And we bring it over here and we're like, oh, I need to be in fear and I'm not safe, and all the things that we need to do, and we keep doing the same old, same old, same old. What happens if we really go back and look at where that's coming from, we can unravel it, right? And we don't need to actually hold on to it anymore. So it's kind of like somebody in the past, if somebody thinks that, they're not good enough at something, right? People will become, people pleasers, right? And perfectionists. If someone feels that, they were a little trapped in their past, right? They may become overperformers, trying to escape and do the over too much, right? Just to get away, just escape, right? Just instead of staying in their constraint. So if I really was to ask somebody, to take a pause and go, so what's coming forward for you, right? And someone says, well, I really don't want to go down that road right now, but in order to take a pause, let me go back to the pause, okay? The pause I actually made for every letter something, so everybody can really understand it in a very simplified manner, okay? So the P is about perceiving. It's about looking at pattern recognition, right? So we're going to identify the subconscious belief or the default reaction, like of fear, right? That's shaping your current experience. So one of my mentors has said,
how do you know that? How do you know what that is?
Well, I would ask you, what are you fearful of? What's happening? Where's the fear coming from? When do you remember that happening the first time in your life? Right. And most of the time people will say, oh, I remember that when I was like 5, 6, or 7, right?
I don't remember back that far.
Well, but if you thought about, if you came up with, something, right? Like, I mean, I had trauma in my life, right? And then what happens as a small child, right? I was told I was a liar. Well, I wasn't lying, it was truth. But then I created a story around that, right? That it was my fault that it happened and my siblings were affected by it and all this story that I carry around as a small child. And then what happens is we kind of manipulate our world to get more love and affection and support and everything as a small child. We just do what we can to do that. But those patterns that we do, we actually end up moving them forward and bringing them into the adult world. Right. So now we're doing the same things. And for me, I'm doing things for like 4 generations, right? 4 decades, let's say, right? 40 years. I mean, I'm 63 now, right? So like things that happened to me when I was 8 and 9, now I may be carrying things around for all the 5 decades now, right? About 5, right? And so what happens is I gave myself a narrative of what happened to me when I was young, right? And that has got me through to this point. But if I go back and I go, okay, so I don't feel safe. Well, when's the first time I didn't feel safe? Well, I was like 8, 9 years old. And this is what happened. The one event, right, told me that I didn't feel safe. And so, but that was back then, right? So if I look at me today and I go, well, am I safe? Well, in today, present form, I'm safe. Like I'm in my home. I'm in a safe neighborhood. I have safe friends. I'm safe. That's not happening to me anymore, right? So then what happens is those words become stories and they actually become lies for this place, this current place, right? So if it's a lie and it's not a truth, and you really get to tap into that, right? Then how would you show up in the world today if that wasn't a truth? Well, I very differently. Now I've done my work. So that's, that place is just a bunch of words that I told myself before. But now I know the universe, regardless of the trauma, the universe brings me everything that I need. This world, this universe gives us everything we need. I don't need to be fearful of the future because I don't know what's going to happen. Circumstances happen. And what happens is we think we are a victim of circumstances, right? We're really only victim of the lies that we tell ourselves of the way we perceive ourselves. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah.
What I'm curious to know though is that, so Cindy just started off saying her words, I'm overwhelmed, I'm busy, and I've got grandkids and I've got businesses.
Yep.
Now to get to that point, I mean, that's her reality. That's her reality. She's overwhelmed. She's got businesses. She's got grandkids.
Yep.
And she's not immune to that she's not the only person that feels this. Now, how would she know that that was driven by fear? Or would you say that potentially she is just overwhelmed? She's doing too much. She's trying to, or is she fearful of not living up to her children's expectations of looking after the grandchildren?
Well, she's feeling overwhelmed. First of all, overwhelmed. We have so much in this world to do already, right? So it's easy to feel overwhelmed. But I would go back and go, okay, so when's the first time you felt overwhelmed? Like where's that come from? We all have stuff to do, right?
Since I have grandchildren.
Since you have grandchildren, but it didn't though. You must have felt overwhelmed before. Like the word overwhelmed, what does that mean to you? Like, let's break it down. What is it? Because it's different for other people, right? So what does the word overwhelm mean to you?
That you've got something going on every minute of the day, that you're scheduled every second of the day. The only day I'm not scheduled is my Friday when I'm on the farm with my grandbabies.
So
it's scheduling. I think it's scheduling, like Kim and I were talking before we even came, we talked to you and I just said, right, how we're going here tonight. Well, I've got to drop a car off and then I've got to do this and then I've got to do that. She's trying to work my schedule with me.
It all worked out, Karen. It worked
out.
It worked out. But I mean, really, like, the scheduling is too tight. So like, if you create something like what really has to happen right now and what can happen tomorrow, right? That's like time blocking. That's like more of a time blocking thing that you've just got too much going on. And here's the deal. Some people like that. If you didn't have that, Cindy, how would it feel if you really got to like sit down and have a cup of tea, go for a walk, right? Not feel overwhelmed, like, you know, all the feelings that you're having, like what would life look like for you? How would you show up?
Bored.
See, okay, so overwhelm is her
I'm
way
so
of not
sorry. I
feeling
just like
bored.
go,
No, it's
well,
funny.
what would that look like? I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
Exactly, which is why you create this world for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different than some constraints for people, but like that's
Yeah.
just how you go, because what's going to happen if you stop? What's the fear if you stop? It's not bored, but what's the fear underneath there? If you're not busy, 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 busy all the time.
Just, I wouldn't know what to do with myself, maybe, you know? Maybe I would if I really thought about it, but like right at the moment, no. And I don't need this to be about me. What I was trying to do
No,
is
this is really good because there is hundreds and thousands of women who do this all the
Oh, no,
time.
keep going.
Yeah. Kim's like, no, keep going. So yeah, like what is that about if you're not busy every second of the day?
yeah, maybe I wouldn't know what to do with myself, but I would. I actually, that's a lie. I know what to do with myself. I'd just come to the farm, or I'd go play with my grandchildren.
Okay,
I wouldn't have a cup of tea, that's for sure. Yeah,
so are
interesting.
you over
It's a good question. It's a good question.
So here, and we're still on the P still, a pattern
Yes.
recognition, right? Which is exactly why I'm asking these questions. So the question would be, what story are you telling yourself right now? And is it rooted in truth or is it rooted in past conditioning? Like, were you a busy child? Were you always busy, busy, busy? Was that the way that you learned how to be responsible?
No, that was my mother. My mother was, I would call my mother the Stepford wife, Stepford mother, Stepford friend, Stepford business partner. She was perfect. She was up early in the morning. She did her exercises, did what she needed to do. She made breakfast every single morning. She made every lunch. She'd pick us up from school, bring us home. We'd have a beautiful lunch. She'd take us back. Dinner was the same. We had dessert for dinner, or every single night. We had a formal dinner every single night. I think I watched now that you're saying it, I watched my mother be the perfect everything. That's what I watched. And she was. She even
And
died
did she expect
perfectly,
you to do the
actually.
same? Did she expect the same from you?
No, not at all. No, I
You've
don't
just,
think there were any
you've just,
expectations. And in actual fact, when she became the grandmother, she became the perfect grandmother, was always there for 6 weeks of every baby. She was there. It was the oldest of 11 children. She knew how to deal with babies. And I learnt so much from her with regards to that. But I wouldn't call myself the Stepford wife, the Stepford mother, the Stepford friend.
oh, no, I didn't mean that. I just
No.
meant her busyness of always having, doing. Have you adopted that?
Oh,
Like in
you
order
do
to
adopt
feel
stuff. Yeah.
whole, right? That you're always busy, 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 which is why when I said, well, what if we weren't so busy? You're like, I'd be bored. I don't know what to do. I'm not, you know,
Yeah.
and you don't know until you don't, because I'll tell you, I lived my life busy, busy, busy
Yeah.
until I stopped. And now I work 4 to 5 hours a day and I take Friday, Saturday, Sundays off. Right. So, I mean, it's just really taking a pause to really like look at how am I living my life? What's working, what's not working? What can I let go of to actually even discover and explore if maybe this little detour, right, is actually going to give me a more fulfilled, vibrant life, right? But we don't know because we're so busy doing for everybody else. Right. So my first pause was a trip to the mailbox. Seriously, that was my first pause. I walked to the mailbox. I lived on a hill and I walked all the way down the mailbox, and it was just my time to just get away from the chaos and the noise. And then I would just walk back. And then I learned from there to take more pauses. So I think awareness is the first step. When you say you just feel overwhelmed all the time, I'm like, that's the first step, right? Of like just knowing what's going on, and awareness of self. And then the next step is really to fully accept what it is without any judgment or opinion or any resistance. Like, this is just what's going on. I'm just going to take an opportunity to explore this, right? And really dive in to see what's working, what's not working, right? I think acceptance isn't a resignation. It's actually the key to shifting your perspective, because the way we live life is just the way we perceive ourselves. So if I have a story about something, right? Stories are made up of words, right? And literally a lot of our stories in our head are a bunch of BS from the past that isn't even relevant today, but we've moved it forward, right? I mean, I can, I had, a story in my house that I wasn't smart when I was younger. I didn't have good grades in school. I mean, I got F in math, like all through high school. I don't know how I even graduated. Right. So I just have always told myself I'm just, not smart when it comes to, and that's been my story. But like, really, I'm just not smart doing word problems. I'm actually in mortgage also. So like, I have to know numbers, So, I mean, that was a story I told myself, but it's not my story anymore, because that was my story when I was in grammar school. So I'm like, identify it and leave it there. And that's great, but that's not my story today. That's not my truth today. Right. So, just really like shifting that perspective to go, that's a lie. I am smart, right? I am loved. I do matter, because I'm doing things in the world and I'm impacting. I'm looking at today and going, yes, I matter. And yes, I'm loved. I have people who love me all around me. That's not a truth of mine anymore. Right. So all those things that we carry forward, and like, being overwhelmed, I'm sure there's layers to that, but is that a truth, or is that just how you want to live? Or do we need to take a pause back and see if we can get rid of a few things so you can enjoy more? Like, I'm not sure, right? So women, they don't even take times during their career to take a moment just to think about, let me just take 10 minutes a day just to like get in my creative space, take a pause, and like see how I can really creatively make this a little bit different that will work out for me and the organization, right? We don't even do that. Then we go home and we have feelings about stuff, and we just it's like a whack-a-mole. You just whack it down because there's no time to have a feeling.
So, Karen, when I had children when they were young and my husband was away a lot, and I would get overwhelmed sometimes, and I knew it had to change. And this is where I used the power of aromatherapy. Even going to the toilet was a break for me. Even if the little darlings followed me, I would then take my aroma mist and spritz them at the same time. I would run a bath for them, and we'd call it a candle bath. They got to choose the oils. They got to each light a candle, which was huge. Right. But one of the best things that I ever did, everything I did for my children was actually for me. And so I'd say to them, right, mummy's going to sit here, look like a cup of tea, but it may have been a whiskey. I'm not sure. But no, it wasn't. But I'd sit there and I go, we can't talk or move for 1 whole minute. That's what a candle bath is. You've got to be really still for 1 whole minute. And they go, okay. And if you don't stay still for the whole minute on that clock, we have to start again. And all it was for me. So 1 minute they'd sit in the bath, they weren't allowed to move or make a drip. And if they did, we had to start again. And it was just my way of having fun to get a 1 minute pause for me. And I used to call them triple M's, micro moments of mindfulness. So it was just like walking to the thing. When I cook, I'm cooking up ideas in my head. When I clean, I'm decluttering my head. So I have these metaphors for everything. So I didn't feel I had to be the Stepford mum like beautiful Cindy's mum was. But I also know that sometimes you just, most of the time when you got triggered or activated or upset by anything, it was because you were so damn tired more than the situation. Is that a truth as well, that sometimes our own physical, mental, emotional state actually can determine the outside world as well?
Well, yeah, because it's your nervous system, right? So yes, typically when you get upset about something, I mean, if you're dehydrated, depleted, sleep deprived, all those things, right, can actually all like get you a little more, on edge, right? But however, if you think about, you get triggered by something, right? Normally, right? So being triggered means you get upset about something, right? It just means that we're not healed from something. So the gap between getting triggered, right, and really upset that's where I teach people to explore that. If you get triggered by something, explore that. Give yourself permission to leave the room. What's going on with me right now? Where is that coming from, right? And once you do the work, you can actually get really quick at letting those little things that trigger you bounce right off. Like I call it bouncing, right? It's like, oh my God, I'm in a board meeting or something, and someone is saying something that really is triggering me. Let me just take permission to take a break and go to the bathroom or get a cup of water, right? And I go back and go, why is that triggering me? Oh yeah, that's because they're saying something that I don't believe in, but it's triggering me because it's a place where I'm not healed yet. I haven't unraveled that, right? That what's going on there. So then I'm like, all right, so why did that really bother me today? Well, that's because I remember my mom saying that to me, and I just haven't like healed from that situation of my past, the programming. I'm like, oh, when someone brings that up, then I'm going to get, oh, right. So we go back and we go, okay, so what's the trigger, right? Like, because you can like heal from that, right? And then you can actually like that's not truth anymore. That's when you were small, when you were 14, right? Today you're 50 or whatever, however anybody is, right? And so how can we not get triggered by that? You can leave it there. Like we all have a history of our past, but some of it works from us and some of it doesn't, right? And so the stuff that doesn't work from us, you can leave it there. Like lay it down and leave it there, right? And just be free from that. And so here's where you separate the fact from fiction. You know, what is what in this belief system of the trigger isn't true for me, right? What's the situation trying to teach me? Okay. The space between the reaction and the response. That's where the point of real power that we get to explore that. See, what happens is people are always, let's just say they're unhappy or, you know, whatever, they haven't dealt with things or whatever, you know, some people use drugs and alcohol and do all these different things to band-aid and make themselves feel better, right? A lot of people are looking outside of themselves and searching how they can be happier, how they can be more fulfilled. But it's really inside of us. It's all inside of us, the true essence of who we are, right? And when you talk about abundance, you're doing this abundance thing tomorrow. I think that's amazing, right? Because really, at our true essence of who we are abundant. What happens over years is that we start as this true, vulnerable, wonderful being, right? Precious being when we're very small children. And as we grow, right, we get hurts and hurts and hurts and all these accumulation of things that just pile on top of the true essence of who we are, right? And so we kind of have to unravel that stuff, right? Once you start unraveling it, then that true essence of who you are starts blossoming out, right? So I think it's great that you guys are doing the abundance thing. I mean, I love abundance because it's in us. If I tell myself that like, oh, I don't have enough money or I'm broke or whatever, it's like, no, what's happening is just what's happening right now is just happening, right? Just accept it and then like move forward back into your abundance. It just is what it is right now. That's what we've created. Because we're actually going to create things and circumstances, attract people and circumstances in our life where we're actually not healed.
I liked that you said the universe gives us everything. And I think people forget to even ask, because if we're probably asking the wrong request or the wrong question, then, you know, you're not going to get what you want. Like, I remember this lady years and years ago, and she said, I want you to imagine the universe as a warehouse. And in that warehouse, there's everything. And you can go to any part of that warehouse and you can pick out exactly what you want and put back what you don't want. And she did that as a metaphor. So I really love that metaphor, is that, you know, the universe is abundant. And what was your words? The universe gives us everything. And that everything can be good and could be bad, but it's about, I guess, what you ask for. And I think that's what I got from you.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely bad things happen, right? Bad things happen to people, and I'm not like, yeah, horrible things, right? However, when I look back at all the trauma in my life, it was setting me up for this exact moment, right? So horrible. However, again, I am doing what I'm doing because of what I've done and helping a lot of women, right? So it's kind of like, oh, there's two things. One thing I will say is I always carry around a genie lamp, but I don't have my genie lamp in front of me, but I have this. And if this is not video, people can't see, I have a little Aladdin lamp here. And so one of the things that I actually work with women, and actually some men too, is that you have to be careful. We all have a personal genie or a personal Aladdin. So whatever, and as we know, as the work that you guys do as well, right? Our outcomes are coming from our thinking and our feelings and then our behaviors, right? And our actions, and it becomes our outcomes. But if you reverse engineer that, I'm like, be careful, because what you say and what you feel, your little personal genie is going to give you exactly that. Exactly that, right? Because whatever we resist, we're going to reinforce it and we're going to get more of it. It's just the way it works, right? So if I keep thinking I'm not safe, then I'm going to keep attracting people that I'm not safe with. I'm going to circumstances, people, like it's just going to keep coming until I go, wait a minute, until you dip into that and figure out where that's coming from and break free from that, right? To know that you really are safe. Okay. The other thing that I was going to say, is, like a glass of water, right? Here's another one you can think of, a glass of water, right? Like I don't have a lot of water here because I've been drinking water. But if this glass, this is the mechanism on the outside, right? This is like our world, right? But the glass has water in it. But if this is our world, the container that we're in, this container can't get any bigger. It is what it is inside. You can't get any more water in there. You can't grow and expand past it, right? So the idea is to the constraint, to relieve the constraints, so then it gets bigger. So if you live in a 500 square foot home, right, you can make it amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. You come in and bring an interior designer and it'll be the most amazing 500 square foot home ever. However, that's it. It's only a 500 square foot home. It's not any bigger, right? You can't have a wedding in a 500 square foot home, right? So if you want something more and expand and grow, then you got to leave the 500 square home, that just gave you a better version of the 500 square foot home, and go get something else so you can expand and grow. It's the same kind of thing, right? So I'm all about expansion and growth, like every day of my life. I'm learning something every single day, right? And so that's where you actually get to go ahead. And when we talk about the pause, we talked about the P and the the P and the A, and the U, but the S, this is right in line with what I'm saying, to start reframing that old belief into the empowering truth that is, right? So for you, if you're saying, oh, I'm just overwhelmed all the time, well, it's just words. They're here. They made up a story that you're overwhelmed, right? So let's reframe that narrative, because it's just made up of words, right? It's all just up here. You have the power to reframe that into an empowering truth. I just like to have structure and be busy and take my Fridays to be with my grandkids, right? Then it's not overwhelming anymore. It's just the way that you like to structure your day. Okay. And then if that happened, you're already whole, you're already worthy, and not overwhelmed, then how would you show up? Right? So this is where we get to rewrite the narrative and pivot into new possibilities. So I always say that, in uncertainty, there is pure possibility everywhere. You just have to look for it. So for Cindy, for you, the overwhelming is like, well, if you don't want to feel overwhelmed anymore, we can change the narrative and you can start finding ways to not be overwhelmed. Right? Because it's just a bunch of words. And a lot of the time it's my own BS thinking, that's getting in the way.
So can we just confirm the P was perceiving and pattern recognition? Got that. And then A, was that awareness? The awareness.
It was acknowledge and acceptance of self.
Oh, acknowledge and acceptance of self.
Yeah,
and
fully
then
accept where you are. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the awareness, having that awareness around it. The U, was that about the universe? The universe.
The U is about unwinding and untangling to understand. So yes, that incorporates whatever the life is giving you, everything that you need.
Perfect. And then the S, is that about structure?
That's shift and self-reframing, reframing your narrative, pivoting into new possibilities.
Nice. And a part of that is having structure around that too. And then the E.
And the E is really to embody and expand. So freedom is it isn't just a thought, it's actually a practice. So this is where you have to practice all the time. Like, being overwhelmed, and then going, okay, I'm not overwhelmed. This is my structure. So now if you say you're structured, then all of a sudden the nervous system changes and, you're more free, right? This is just my structure. I'm not overwhelmed, because overwhelm gives you different energy, right? And then really just embodying the new belief, the new alignment with yourself. So I teach a lot of women, like, what do we want to design for the next chapter in our lives? So what do you really want to design? Because a lot of times people stop dreaming and they stop doing the things they want. There's a lot of women that I'll take back into their timeline of things that they let go of that really brought them joy, right? Like women start singing and they start doing dance lessons because they love to dance and they forgot about all the joyful things that they used to do, right? And so by doing a little timeline and by going back and looking at things like, why did I even drop that? I dropped that because I became a mom and became a wife or whatever I became, or opposite direction. And it's like, but you really didn't need to. We somehow just decided that we had to be all things for everybody and put ourselves on the back burner, right? And that's not the case. That's just some story you told yourself, right? So a lot of women actually will take a pause in the middle of the night, because that's where they get, in the middle of the night, they'll go to the kitchen, they'll have a cup of tea. It's totally quiet and they love it. And that's where they really get to think and go, you know what? God, I remember I used to do this wonderful thing and I loved it. I'm going to continue to get up in the middle of the night just for a half hour and just write that book with a cup of tea, right? Bring back some joy for yourself. Like, women, the word selfish, has such a negative connotation, but really to be selfish for self is like putting your own oxygen mask on an airplane to take care of yourself first so you can take care of others. So it's one of the things that's like, what can we do for us as women, right? To take care of us. What do we need? I used to be dehydrated for 10 years and I didn't know I was dehydrated because I didn't know what dehydration was. But once I figured it out and I started having more vitality in my life and I drank all this water, right? Having water, I felt amazing. But I didn't know that when I was dehydrated, because that was my norm. So then when I get dehydrated, when I get sick or I have some medicine I take or something, I get dehydrated, I'm like, oh, I know what that is. Let me go grab a bottle of water. But I was sick for 10 years being dehydrated and I didn't even know it. I never drank water. But that was my norm. So being overwhelmed for Cindy is her norm, right? So we got to pause and just kind of realign things, have a new narrative, shift the perception, right? And your perspective, and see how things happen. And so what happens during the retreats, people like get to unravel all that stuff. And then we get to put some things in place, and then we follow up every month, basically, to see how they're doing. And maybe there's another thing, and it takes, it takes about 30 days. You start become really aware. The next 30 days, you get to like play it out in life. And the next 30 days, you get to really like create one big thing that you wanted to put in place, right? And so I do like this thing for 90 days with women, and they start a new 90 days, right? Because we can take 90 days. We can take 30 days, 30 days, and 30 days. It's like when someone does a goal for like 6 months or a year, we're like, how many times do we really stick with it? Right? So yeah. So expansion happens when we actually consistently choose the new way over our old patterns. And you guys can find this on my website. All this information as well. There's some freebies on there. People can get a free journal and get more information. But any questions for me? Because that was a lot of stuff.
Are there people that have blocked their childhood or do not believe that something in their childhood has done that? Could it just be what's happening on the day? Or I always find it interesting. Kim's more the she does everything like neuro-linguistic programming. She does hypnotherapy. She's an expert in relationships, in human beingness. That's what she is.
Yeah.
I'm the nutritionist. I'm an expert in food. and sometimes I go, do we have to take it back to our childhood? Is Is it just happening to you at the time? You think it's something from our past?
No, it just depends. No, it's not true. Everything doesn't happen from the past. Something may have happened. I will tell you that when I quit my last job, I was working for an individual that it just wasn't a good situation. I chose to work for this individual, and then I couldn't get my voice heard no matter what I did. I literally was fighting for everything that I was told I was going to get. And the more I fought, the more he fought back. And after 2 years, I was so depleted, I didn't even really want to work anymore. I was so depleted and I felt so stuck. I was so stuck that one of my employees said, "I've never seen you not be able to fix something. I've never seen you like this." I mean, I literally didn't know which way to move because it was so entangled, like with, people and all kinds of different stuff. And I had to reach out to somebody for some help. And I said, I seriously don't know. He goes, "Well, you just need to go in and have a 3-minute conversation and tell them what you're doing and then just leave. Just 3 minutes. That's all you get." And so I did it in 3 minutes and I left so free, so relieved. And then I took off, packed my bag, and I went to the mountains for a week. I got a cabin by the creek. I hung out, no internet, no nothing. And I literally just recreated how I wanted my new life to look. So that's nothing from my past. That was just a choice I made. That was a bad choice, right? Now, something great came from it. This came from it, right? And now I get to help women that are so stuck. So sometimes we're really, really stuck because of our past, but not all the time. Not all the time.
But our past can change or shape who we are. And so even from what I've heard Cindy saying today, her mum was the Stepford mother, the Stepford wife, the Stepford grandmother. And potentially there could be just something at a little layer there where Cindy feels overwhelmed around being a mother and a grandmother and doing the business and all those things, because an unconscious belief could be that, well, her mother did it so perfectly. And the overwhelm could be more about, why aren't I like what my mum was? I'm not saying she's thinking this, but there could be an unconscious belief that it's not meant to look like this, which then creates the overwhelm because it's not what it should be in her view of what was the perfect upbringing potentially. I'm not saying it is, but that's what came to me when you were talking, beautiful Cindy. I was like, yeah, no wonder you get overwhelmed sometimes, because your mum never showed that. You would never have thought of your mum.
I want to honor you for actually bringing this forward also, because that takes a lot to bring that forward, to talk about your mom, right? I mean, I've talked about my mom, and it's, she's come out, she's been in my face about it. And I'm like, well, that's what I do. I share, my story, and it resonates with people. But what I was going to say, to my question to you, Cindy, was like, well, how did it feel as a small child to be in that environment? Can you remember what it felt like?
Yes, I saw my childhood as a magical, amazing childhood. And my brother was the same. We both felt we lived in a fairy tale. My sister, on the other hand, who was 16 months older than me, felt she lived in a horror story. So,
and maybe different mom too, because I have 3 kids that are 4 years apart, whatever they are. I don't know. I'm getting older, so I don't know the math anymore. And they got a different mom, because I'm not the same person I was yesterday.
Yes.
As we know, right? I mean, we're just not. Yesterday is gone, and today's today. And what I learned yesterday has, transformed into something else today. So my kids got a different parent, and they're all very different children, right? So it doesn't surprise me. But fairy tale, you lived in a fairy tale, but that doesn't correlate with the Stepford mom. That's.
But she had everything was laid out for us. Our beds were beautiful.
Okay. So perfect.
It was perfect. Yeah. And I don't know how else to explain it, but both my brother and I felt the same. My brother, I would call the happiest man on earth. He's just incredible. Doesn't matter what's happening in his life, and I call him, he's the happiest man on earth. And but my sister, she's dead. She died at 46 from 5 autoimmune diseases. Like, you can't, like, you look at my brother and I, and you look at my sister, and it's just, like you said, that mum isn't the same mum, even though it was the same mum. That mum isn't maybe not the same mum. Maybe my mother, like I know what my mother's life was like as the oldest of 11 in Iowa, USA, in a Catholic farming family. And I know the abuse that happened in that family because all the girls talk about it. So my mum never spoke about it, never spoke about any of it. So I kind of, like and yet she showed perfection on the outside, absolute perfection. Yeah, it's
So
an enigma.
so my question would be, is the overwhelmness trying to be perfect like your mom?
I'm never going to be like my mother.
You already said that once. So the opposite would be, I don't know. I don't know. That's so funny.
I don't want to be that. I never
Yeah,
want
and it doesn't surprise me that your sister had so many immune systems, as you would know, right? This dis-ease in her soul created all this dis-ease in her body, right? So that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I love your story. I mean, I don't know anybody who has a upbringing like that just like has nothing coming from that except that you're feeling overwhelmed. So like that's a story in your head, right? So you can rewrite that narrative, girl.
Yeah, and you know what? And I realized like today, and it's not just me though. And I guess I put myself forward, but it's not just me that's feeling this. And I want to know whether you think that there is, like, they call it the age of Aquarius, and they're saying there's a real change in the world. And do you believe it's not just an individual thing that people are going through, but is the world having an upsurge, a change? I feel like I feel it because, like I said, we're getting these incredible women together tomorrow, and we're all good friends. And they've all been saying something that I've never heard them say before,
Like,
about things, like relationship issues. And I'm not talking about husband and wife, I'm talking about kids. So relationship issues. I'm being taken advantage of by my children, with my grandchildren. That's not me saying, that's somebody else saying. So it was really interesting where everybody was kind of coming from. And that's when Kim and I went, right, we're nipping this in the butt really fast. We are going to get together for a day and we're having an abundance day, and we're going to do the 10 steps to manifesting, which was put out by this amazing lady by the name of Michelle Nielsen. She wrote the book Manifesting Matisse. So we just went, right, we're just going to do those 10 steps. Kim and I often do it together. We'll take a day, come up here on that table over there. We'll come up here and we'll do that just to reset. And I just felt like maybe there's a reset happening. I don't know what you're feeling, Karen, but
well, yeah, I think there is. And interesting enough, when you say about the women that things are happening, their kids, blah, 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 blah. It's like, it's not out there. So this is the part, it's not out there. Whatever's happening, it's inside. It's inside of us, right? There's nothing out there. It's how we perceive life. So if someone says their kid or whatever's going on, right? Whatever it is, what you said earlier, it's never out there. It's just how we are perceiving what's happening. So we need to just rewrite the narrative, right? Unless you're stuck from something past conditioning, right? That's different. Then we have to unravel that and figure out what's going on, right? So I would say, like, every time you hear somebody saying, well, that happened or this happened and I'm upset. No, something in here is triggering you to be upset. It's not because that happened. Remember, the universe is going to bring you everything you need, people and circumstances, show you where you're not healed. So really, like, if that's upsetting you, let's unravel that. Where's that coming from? Right? When do you remember the first time that happening in your life? How old were you? Right? And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it could be just something that happened, that's all of a sudden it's changed your mindset and something's happened last week. But typically, if someone's continuing to search, or victim of circumstances or victim of somebody's done something and I'm upset, that it's just some place inside you that's not healed. Because really, you can go to a restaurant and somebody can make a big, hoop-de-doo or get mad or something at a table, right? And one person go over there and go, hey, I'm going to come over here and like, what's going on? And another person go, they're just having a night. Let's just enjoy ours. Two totally different perceptions of what's going on based on how they're perceiving themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like your thing about stimulus and response, that pause. So I have a question to ask you about that pause.
Yeah.
Because
Ask
sometimes
away.
that stimulus can happen and it's, how do you pause? How do you get the discipline between stimulus and response?
Practice, my dear. Like seriously, like practice, because I used to be that person, right? And then I stopped. I had to go, you know what? This is something's going on with me. It's not that person, right? So we don't know what's going on with other people and their behaviors and their upbringings and all this stuff, but they're going to be triggered, right? Everybody's uniquely themselves, right? So I only have control of my own reactions. And so it's literally practice. If you think of a human being, and Kim does this work, right? Human beings are reactionary beings, right? So if we could respond versus react, right? Just take a pause to go, like I said, at a board meeting, when something gets to me, when somebody used to call me a liar, right? When I'm the most truthful person in the world, I never lie, but they don't believe it because of their history, right? That can't be true. So you must be lying. Nobody would do that because their history is, whatever their history is, right? So now they're placing their baggage on me and they're calling me a liar because of their baggage, right? And I'm raging. I'm like, I'm the most truthful, but what are you talking about? I'm not lying. This is truth, right? And I'm blah, 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 blah. But once I realized where that came from and I don't need to live there anymore, I'm a truthful person. I'm the most honest person in the world. And whatever you say is not going to affect me. I'm not going to react to that because I'm really grounded in who I am, the true essence of who I am, right? So then that doesn't affect me anymore. And that's freedom, from other people's stuff. And then, of course, I don't put myself, and this is the other thing I've done literally in the last 5 years, is like, I've actually removed myself from some people that is not good energy from me. I can love them and love them enough to let them be where they are and love myself enough to remove myself, right? So I can stay in my good energy and my peace. So it's just practice. You just got to practice. It's literally like, living, or, I remember when I was a small child, I used to cuss a lot. I don't know why I cuss so much, but someone said, every time you cuss, I'm going to make you put a quarter in that thing. And the more I did the quarter in the bucket, the less I cussed. You catch yourself after a while, right? You really do. It's a practice. And then you stop. And then now when I say it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I hardly say it at all, right? When I get really upset, I might, but like, it's rare. It's very rare. And it used to be horrible when I was young. So it's just practice. And the more you practice, the more you're aware you are and the less it'll just become a thing. My daughter and I, she was in a really bad relationship. It was really hard to watch for many, many years. And I remember that I got so upset with her one time that I grabbed her and I said, you're not leaving, right? And what I realized was it was so hard for me as a mom to watch all this going on that I was raging. I was like, just kind of out of control almost, right? And when I decided to change my communication with her and just love her no matter what, and know the universe is going to like make whatever happen, and God and whatever you believe in, I prayed like crazy. Literally, I sat with her one day after this horrible thing happened with her. I coached her through it. She broke free from the I'm not safe, right? It took like 20 minutes. She met a guy 2 weeks later and she's in the happiest place she's ever been. But it took me changing my communication, right? To get out of that space. And one time I had to leave for a couple months to come back to my second home. And I'm like, I need to go get a mental health escape, right? And it's like, I give everybody else mental health spaces, but then I need to remember to take my own. And so I went away and I recalibrated and did what I had to do. And then I was able to communicate with her different, which changed the communication between her and I, and everything's great. So a lot of the times If you can change that and not react, you're going to see your family change because you're changing. Right.
Good advice.
It's a beautiful ripple effect. And, you know, every single expert out there I hear talking or I'm interviewing at the moment, they're all saying the best parents are the parents who have done a lot of work on themselves, or they've done stuff to understand who they are so that they can accept their faults or their inverted commas mistakes or their programming, and be aware that there's a lot more to learn. And there is so much information now out there that is free. Podcasts like this are amazing if people are willing to do the work. Why do you think, and my question to you is, why do you think so many people aren't willing to do the work, or just go, that's the way it is, don't coach me, I'm not interested in all your cult? But I don't know if that's what they say, but, you know, like they potentially don't want to hear
members. Yeah, no, I know, because I have family members in my world, 2 women, and neither one of them will do the work. And it's because they're just not ready. They're not there. We can't push people into doing the work. So the best way to change a relationship is for us to do the work, right? People just aren't ready. You have to meet people where they are. You just have to. I mean, you can't push because it pushes people away, right? You just have to meet people where they are. So when I coach, the first thing I do is I always do an intake, right? It's like a 15-minute kind of discovery call with them to see where they're at. You know, what are they looking for? Where is your point A? You know, and then we baby step them through point B, point C, point, you know, and baby step. But like, if someone's not willing to go there, it's because it's scary. They don't want to bring up the hurt, right? There's all kinds of emotions about the past, right? I didn't want to talk to somebody about what happened to me for years, you know, and it was hard for me because I didn't feel protected a lot of the times, right? And I felt like I should have been protected. And I brought it up to this 40 years later. Hey, I just wanted, now that I kind of unraveled it all and figured it out, right? You know, this one thing's been haunting me and I just want to share it with you. And it actually was reciprocated very well, right? And then also, you know, when things happen to me, also there are times when you give some compassion to somebody or give them empathy for what they're going through, all of a sudden there is this connection with the person, and that whole relationship will change. So remember I told you that somebody called me a liar, and I took that into my whole world for many, many years, right? And I was just crazy about it. The person that actually said that to me passed away when my daughter was born. She's 25 now, my youngest daughter. And we were at an event and she was there. And I really had all this anxiety about seeing this person. And before she got in the car, I was standing probably, I don't know, maybe 10 feet away from her. And she looked at me with this very soft face, which I've never seen her face that soft. And she looked at me to let me know, just with her eyes, that she believed me. And she was so sorry. And that's all I needed. And it was 40 years later. So it only takes one person to make that change.
I think the other thing that I've taken away from you today too is we can't expect that of another person. We can't want that or need that, but we can give it to ourselves by taking that pause, by giving ourselves moments in the mountains, or walk on the beach, or time up at the farm, or taking an aromatic bath, like all of those moments. And I think the real key from today is with intention. Like when Cindy goes up to the farm tomorrow, well, she won't be tomorrow because we're working together. But when she goes up there, she knows this is her pause. But I think this is a really beautiful word, the word pause, because it actually gives us all permission to take the pause and to actually realize the importance of the pause. So is there any other tips around how to take a pause, or how long the pause should be? Or what are your thoughts around what would be top 3 tips you could give someone to learn how to take the pause?
Well, I would say a small pause. It could be anything, like whatever. A pause it's just a moment. It can just be a moment, right? It could be a pause when you get triggered and go, what am I thinking? And then if you don't have time to, let me put that away and I'll bring it later. You can journal. Like journaling is amazing when you write stuff down, right? And you can really, like, you know, kind of figure things out and unravel them. but there's a saying that Shakespeare says, and it says, nothing is neither good nor bad. It's only thinking that makes it so. So you really need to tap into, like, what's my thoughts about the situation, right? What am I thinking? Is that really a truth or is that a lie? Okay. So, I mean, go to, use the pause. The biggest thing I would say, if I can change the narrative, this story I'm telling myself, if this story wasn't true, which actually comes from our thinking, right? If this wasn't a true story, how would I show up today? How would I show up to my kids? If I don't think that my kids are just out to get me today, right? How would I show up for them when they're in a bad mood, right?
It's like the pause between stimulus and response.
Yes, that's what you
As
keep
we
bringing
have
up.
in our day. The pause down to the letterbox and back. The pause
Yeah.
when Kim and
Yeah.
I do a breath session, and I do it every day. And it's sometimes I only do 5 if I need to do that pause. And it's something that my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, who's 4, has learned. Like, she was having an absolute spack attack at her cousin. She would not let him have anything, nothing to play with. We were at her house, and I took her away from the situation. I gave him a toy. I took her out of the situation, and I said, sweetie, the reason I've come with Koa is to play. And she nods. And I said, but we're going to leave if you cannot help have a good time together and share your toys. And I said to her, what do you need to do? And I thought she was going to like give a toy to Koa, but instead she goes and does this breath. She takes about 4 breaths. And I went,
love it.
that's
I
right.
love
You need to calm down. And then I said, and what's the second thing you need to do? So we paused out of the situation. She paused with her breath, and then she was able to go and give Koa a toy. So we can teach our kids these beautiful pauses as well. And she taught me like,
That's
I have
awesome.
to take a breath first before I do anything else.
Wow, that is awesome. That's wonderful. I love that. And so this next generation and the generation, kids and grandkids, right?
Yeah.
I just had a thought the other night. I'm like, bringing this stuff to these kids so they can start. Like, I had 25, a couple 30-year-olds, 60, and someone in 77 at my retreat.
Wow.
And it was very interesting. The 77-year-old that actually was like so just amazed at the work these young girls were doing. Right. And then I'm looking back going, I wish I would have had that, as a young person. Right. Instead of carrying around all this stuff for however many years. Right. But again, the universe gives you what you need when you need it.
Exactly.
We just have to make sure that we're open to the opportunity. Right. And really kind of just embrace it and see what's going to work and what's not. Right.
Or not. There's people who won't, and that's okay too.
That's okay too, right? That is okay. Like, literally, I always say that you are for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I go to your website, and just so the listener knows, KarenBartholomew.com, we'll put it in the notes. But I love the front thing here. It says you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need a place to pause, realign, and rise. Through powerful mindset coaching, this beautiful soul, Karen, helps women to break free from the past, beliefs that are not serving them, and design their next chapter with clarity, confidence, and purpose. And so I think if people followed you on there, did you say you had a number of beautiful resources and things, gorgeous Karen?
Yeah. So if you go to the end at the bottom, there's some media there. So, and there's a journal in there, and there's 7 questions to ask yourself that's in alignment with the pause. And then under events, the pause is in a couple different sections. So, but if you just kind of hover over the top, the retreat that I just did, which was called, it was called Empower the Pause. It says Empower the Pause. If you go down there, you'll see everything we just talked about with the questions they can ask too. So there's all kinds of ways that they can find stuff. Yeah. So
it's so beautiful because for most of us, and I'm going to say this as a generalized statement, but a lot of people, men and women, potentially want to do this work, but they don't know where to start. It's a bit like going to the gym for the first time. You feel like everyone's looking at you like you're the problem. You're the only one that's not fit. You're the only one that's not right. But doing something like this, answering those questions, looking at your website, even listening to this this podcast again, you will hear it differently. It's almost like you're giving us a pause by going to your website to actually just see if this information is what I'm after right here, right now. And Cindy and I would encourage you all listening to this to go to this beautiful Karen's page and just, if this has really activated something in you to want to do the work, dive deeper. I also want to add that I think doing the work seems a lot more scarier than actually doing the work, especially when you've got a coach or someone like Karen who holds space for you. It's really important to know this isn't about dredging up the past or recreating circumstances that traumatized you. This is about allowing you space to be in a place to actually let it go or to embody it or to take the learnings from it. Is that a fair enough statement, beautiful Karen? And if it is, what would be a final message you would have for our beautiful listener?
Yes, that is a true statement that you just said. And I would say that every woman should find a community or someone, if it's just one person, to have a space, a safe space to really explore themselves. I think that we just don't take time to explore ourselves, and we're just so busy with everything that's going on. I mean, there's even women in leadership in organizations that are pregnant and they can't even take the time to really be sick or be nauseous because they're always having to perform, right? So we just really aren't able to take the time to be our feminine beings, right? And so I really want women to embrace who they are and explore every possibility, everything that comes up for them. But find a safe community, a safe space, whether it's you guys or like going to, one of your retreats and looking on my website, reaching out to me. I just want every woman to have a safe space to actually just break free from whatever is holding them back.
Wise words.
Beautiful
Thank
words.
you, Karen, for your time. And I know in Carolina at the moment, it's later than it is here. That's for sure.
It is. It's 8:45.
We're not even reached midday yet. So it must be a lot later there. So we really appreciate your time and coming on. And people can go to your website to find more information. Thank you.
And also, I want to add, there's Karen Bartholomew, which is for Facebook and Instagram. So, that's a lovely place to go and follow this beautiful soul too. But we'll make sure it's in the notes for everybody. And from me too. Thank you, Karen. That was just beautiful. I'm just going to go and take a pause.
Me too.
Okay. Take the pause. I am too. I'm going to go get a cup of tea now.
And it's not menopause.
No, it's not. That happened a long time ago for me.
Thank you, beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, beautiful ladies. Appreciate you. Grateful.